You're watching The Penny Hardaway Show, presented by Cook's Pest Control.
Just one contest for the Memphis men's basketball team this week. We'll recap the game against East Carolina, sit down with the new equipment manager to get a behind-the-scenes look at his job, and preview the first conference road trip of the season. It's a Penny Hardaway Show. Let's go.
The game is on.
The Penny Hardaway Show is presented by Cook's Pest Control. You don't have to live with pests. Call Cook's Pest Control and get a free quote today. Conway Services, the official HVAC partner of Tiger Athletics. Tennessee Lottery, turning dollars into dreams. Tiger Bookstore, the official merchandiser of Tiger Athletics. AutoZone, when you've got car trouble, you want help from number one. So if you've got a battery problem, head to AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone. AutoZone. And is supported by your Memphis area Toyota dealers.
The Tigers get back on track against East Carolina. Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Woloshin.
I'm Matt Enfield. Home sweet home was all Memphis needed. Let's check out the highlights against the Pirates.
The Tigers with a great bounce-back opportunity at home against ECU. Memphis 7-0 at FedEx Forum this season coming in. Tigers trailed by 8 at halftime, but completely turned it around in the second half. It all started on the defensive end, especially with our defensive player of the week. Alex Lomax comes up with the steal, layup on the other end, makes it 33-30. About a minute later, Pirates get lazy with the ball. Lomax pounces for another takeaway and bucket. 7 steals for the Memphis East product on the day. That's good enough to be the outstanding performer of the week. 2 minutes later, now they're up 1. Elijah McCadden, 3-ball, quarter pocket, you bet. 9 points for him on a perfect 4 of 4 shooting. Good guys up 40-36. Another big contributor, just throw it anywhere near the rim, and KO is taking the elevator to the top floor to throw it down. 2 minutes later, time to show off the post work. KO for 2 and tells his man he's too small afterwards. That caps off a 22-0 Memphis run to put them up 13. Jump ahead later in the half. Usually when it's closing time in this building, you call 12. But when the Tigers play, you call 3. 14 points for Kendrick Davis, and this beautiful up and under move puts the finishing touches on this one. A drastic tale of 2 halves. Tigers outscore the Pirates 44-26 after halftime to win it by 10.
Coach, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about your defensive philosophy. So where does the offensive principles that you most rely on, where does that come from?
My offensive principles come from my time in the NBA, playing for different coaches. Also my experiences over the years and what I thought worked. Because of being the point guard, I had to always study film. And there were certain things that I saw where you could get an advantage, and that became a part of my coaching philosophy. So now it's called creating a trigger. So basically we're trying to get 2 guys to play 1, and then now we pass the ball, now we have an advantage 4 against 3. So we're always trying to get the advantage. So my thing is, you get the advantage, you pass the ball a couple times, you get an open shot. So we're trying to create triggers, even though it doesn't work that way all the time for our offense, struggling a lot more than our defense. That's what we're really trying to do. We're trying to create triggers and then move the ball, kind of a 0.5 mentality, which is the NBA. Nobody's holding, the ball isn't sticking. The ball moves faster than the people, and you get open looks.
What are the easiest ways to create those triggers?
Well, you start with a pick and roll to create those triggers. That's the easiest way. Or if you have a good player like Kendrick, he beats his man and another man has to help. Now you got to get off the ball in a timely fashion, and the next guy has to get off the ball in a timely fashion. And you keep moving it, they can't catch up, they run out of men.
I'm curious the origins of all of that, because really there was a lot of motion, UCLA stuff from Larry Finch when you were in college. Mm-hmm. Did you ingrain any of that, and where did this all hit? Like, was it from watching film as a college guy or all mainly NBA?
Well, Coach Finch's offense wouldn't work in today's time because the bigs are out on the perimeter. There are no bigs. We had Anthony Douglas and Kevin Allen.
Right.
So we would dump it down into those guys, and then they would play down there. But now everything is about 5 out, meaning 5 guys out on the perimeter. And it came from the NBA. The NBA is all about 5 out, moving the ball from one side to the other. A lot of what they call ghost screens. We always set the screen and roll or the pick and roll. Now they're going like they're going to set it, and then they're slipping out of the screen to try to distract the defense and create another trigger. So it's evolved a lot since, I was playing in college.
Who are some of the coaches that you played under that have influenced your style now as a coach offensively?
Well, most of my offensive identity in the NBA came from Mike D'Antoni, Scott Skiles, Danny Ainge, playing in that West Coast, that Phoenix era. And every coach has had some offense, but was mostly defense. But that group of guys that I played for in Phoenix kind of opened my mind up to starting the pick and roll on this side, which would be a fake pick and roll, getting the ball to the opposite side, which is the real pick and roll, to try to shift the defense and make the defense move. So started getting the philosophies from that.
Just to clarify, we're talking 7 seconds or less Suns back, 04, 05, Steve Nash in that era?
That was right. I left right before that era happened, but we started to, with Amari Stoudemire, Joe Johnson, and Sean Marion, we started to get into that right before Steve Nash came.
I think of that era and Mike D'Antoni, and I think of, wow, like he said, 7 seconds, there's a bucket. But I also think horrible defensive teams. So where do you go, okay, we want some good principles that will get us, and you've had so many games in the 80s this year without sacrificing defense.
Yeah, well, for us, the defense, or from my mindset, the defense came from Lenny Wilkins when I was in the NBA, Chuck Daly, who coached me in Orlando,
wow.
Larry Brown.
A lot of great names.
Those are the defensive-minded coaches that I learned from. But in today's game, it's more about offense than it is about defense. But the team that are going to hold the trophy at the end are going to be able to do both.
How tough of an adjustment has it been from, you played with maybe the most dominant post player ever in Shaq, and now a lot of those big guys now, they are more perimeter oriented. The three-point ball is kind of the name of the game. How tough of an adjustment has that been on the coaching side?
It hasn't been a tough coaching job at all, because that's where the game is nowadays. And when you go recruit guys that can be on the perimeter and in the post. I'm still going to be a little old school. We're not just dropping it inside like we did in the past, but we got to mix it up. You got to throw it in some to make the defense honest, and you got to get it back to the perimeter. But now you go and recruit those guys that can play the 5-out set where your bigs play on the perimeter.
Well, that's the next question. Do you look at what you've got and then create your offense, or do you take what you've got and try to get them to know your system?
I try to take what I have and try to get them to understand the concepts, because we don't really have sets it's playing out of concepts, almost like a 3-man game. And every time that we play, it's a point guard or screener and another guy that's in that triangle of play. And we try to get those guys to understand those concepts. Like, if you can play 3-on-3 and learn the game, how to move without it, how to get your teammate open, how to draw 2 and get off the ball, then the rest of the game becomes easy.
You got a guy that you just got in Kendrick Davis. He seems to be perfect for exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, well, he's a 20-8 guy in his career. So he brought that to our team. We're still getting him to be a guy that's, once he draws 2, to get off of it more, but is a phenomenal player at making guys guard, 2 and 3 guys guard him, and then finding guys.
If you could start your team with a really dominant point guard, a really dominant wing, or a really dominant big man, what are you doing?
I'm starting my program with a really dominant point guard, because the guards is what takes the game to the next level. If you look at Golden State, it's the guards.
Do you think that we're ever going to go back to guys like just pure post dominance, or are we going to see more and more just continuation of the big guys like, the Embiids, the Giannis's, maybe Karl Anthony Towns, guys like that who have that perimeter-oriented game, and it's going to keep going that direction?
I think at some point they're going to have to get some guys in there, like the Zach Edey kid, the 7-footer that's at Purdue.
Yeah.
The guys that can really play and they can get up and down the floor. They're going to have to get some guys back in there that can't play on the perimeter, that can still set screens and roll, get your basket on the inside, because you're going to have to mix it up. You'll still get enough threes.
Plenty of new faces on the Tigers staff this year, including the equipment manager. We'll get a behind-the-scenes look at everything that goes into his job. Coming up next.
You're watching The Penny Hardaway Show, presented by Cook's Pest Control.
Welcome back to the Penny Hardaway Show. Hunter Thorne is the new equipment manager for the Tigers this year. He's one of many unsung heroes that make this thing go day in and day out. So let's find out everything that goes into his job. All right, Hunter, how does one get into the world of becoming an equipment manager?
Well, it's kind of I don't think there's a streamlined process. For me, I started out in 2015 with the Denver Nuggets, working game night stuff, so helping out the full-time equipment manager and assistant equipment manager, just with basic things like getting the locker room ready, towels, helping rebound, pass for the guys pregame. And then really my next big break was in 2019. I went with the team to Summer League in Las Vegas, spent a lot of time there, had a lot of hands-on action. And then really a coincidental opportunity happened in 2021. I had an opportunity here in Memphis, actually, with the 901 FC. And I ran the team operations for them and oversaw the equipment department. And so that was a great opportunity. I started to fall in love with the city. I love the city's culture. I moved back to Denver right afterwards, and the 2021-22 season, I had the opportunity to travel with the Nuggets on the road. So I was really one of two in charge of making sure we had all of our jerseys, shoes, coaches' shoes, everything in between for the whole season. And then this summer, I was out in Las Vegas again for Summer League, and I was one of the two guys running point on the logistics, making sure all of our equipment made it from Denver to Las Vegas. But really what the coincidental thing was this summer, right after Summer League, this opportunity to come here to Memphis kind of just popped out of nowhere. I knew I loved the city. I never thought I'd get back. And there was an opportunity to come here and be the head men's equipment manager. And I jumped on it, had a couple interviews, met with Coach P, and now I guess the rest is history, and here I am.
I want to hit on game day in a second, but the basic day-to-day, what does that look like?
So the best part about my job is that there's really no same day. Like, each day is going to be something different. It's pretty laid back on just practice days. Getting ready to prep for a game is more extensive, so that's making sure I'm packing all of our players' shoes, backup for the backup shoes, all the jerseys, the compression shirts, socks, everything in between. Pretty much everything you see when you're watching the games on TV or in person, from the staff and player-wise, I'm responsible for making sure they're matching, everybody's coordinating, like our staff outfits. Coach and I get together before road trips and home games and discuss what sweatsuit the guys are gonna wear. We really like to all, match, be one unison group, and it's just really like when we show up to an arena, it shows like, hey, Memphis is here. We're here to, for business.
Game day, walk me through that.
So the day before is really where a majority of the work is done. I'm going through packing all of our jerseys, shoes. Home game, we take it down to the Forum the evening before, and I set up the locker room. So in everybody's locker, they have their jersey, their warm-up top, their jacket, their pants, shoes, and everything in between. And then going into the game day, we usually have a shoot around in the morning. There, it's really, majority of my work is done. I'm just sitting there if the guys need an extra arm sleeve, a headband, or if they want to change something up in their routine, then just be available and hand that out. And I'm beforehand have all that stuff packed, thankfully. So that's really what that's like. And then during the game, I'm responsible for the whiteboard for coach during timeouts. So during a timeout, I'll go out there, set up his chair, and then the manager will set up the players' chairs, the stools that they sit on. And then I have the whiteboard for coach. And then after the game, packing everything up, loading it back on the bus, to the plane if we're on the road, getting back here and unpacking and doing it all again the next week.
How do you put your own kind of stamp on this role?
The great thing for me, and then being here part of Memphis, is, Penny, being who he is, being an icon, not only one of the best players in NBA history, but like, he represents Memphis. He is the city, and he's our leader here. So a really cool thing that we get to do is we get to have a lot of gear and equipment, and the shoes we wear are different than everyone else in the country, just because of who we are and who our head coach is. So that's, I think, where I get to put my creative stamp on, is I get to work with him, day to day, and figure out like, hey, what's something cool we can wear on the sidelines? What's some cool shoes we can get our players in? And I know other teams across the country, they don't get to have that. They don't have Penny Hardaway as their head coach. So I think just being here in our team is just creativity in itself, and then getting to work with him daily, it's just awesome.
I can tell you're passionate about it. Why do you think that is?
I think I've always enjoyed being in sports. I've, growing up and then in high school, I've always loved basketball, played it my whole life. And I knew that I didn't have an opportunity. God didn't put me in a position to, play at the college level or, make it to the pros. So I thought my chance to be involved in that would be to have a career in that. And I was very blessed to have my opportunity in Denver, and I learned from a great staff. The head equipment manager there has been there for 40 some years. The assistant has been there for 20. So I learned a lot of good tips of the trade from them. I just show up loving each and every single day. It's a great way to, everyone likes the equipment guy because they're the ones handing out the gear. So I'm in a good position to have a good relationship with our staff, our players, and especially just being here in the city and seeing how much the city loves the team is incredible.
I think one of the toughest jobs, and you don't get a whole lot of credit nor a lot of money for it, but you work your tail off, is being your equipment guy. And you have a new one this year in Hunter Thorne. Tell us what he's like and why you chose him.
Yeah, obviously since I've been here, if you don't know, Ryan McPhail is the old equipment manager, did a phenomenal job. He had held the job maybe 8, 9, 10 years. He wanted to retire from this job and go on into the workforce and have more time with his family. So we get Hunter to come from the NBA. He was with the Denver Nuggets. True professional. When he did his interview, he knows exactly how to take care of 5-star guys. You're in the NBA, you have the reigning back-to-back MVP there in Nikola Jokic. So, you have all that talent, and then he brought his expertise of understanding how to order things, started understanding what I liked right away, having to take care of the players, having to take all of the luggage, be part of taking the luggage off the planes, load the buses, making sure the guys have their gear. It's a tough job, like you said, for low pay. You have to love it, and he loves it.
What are you looking for when you're filling that position?
Well, you're just looking for a guy that understands how to manage people, because you're gonna get yelled at, you're gonna get pulled in different directions because guys need socks, guys need tights, guys need elbow pads, guys, hey, I don't have my practice jersey. Then you need coaches with polos, jackets. So you have to get a guy that understands people and has patience.
Man, so he's got to have business sense.
He has a ton of business sense. He is a guy that understands everything that goes on from the business side and the personal side. He's a really good guy, and that you have to begin with that. You have to begin with great people.
When you think about the unsung heroes of this program, I mean, the behind-the-scenes people that make this thing go, I mean, how much credit do you give them for the day in and day out of making this thing run?
No, they get a ton of credit. I mean, we get the spotlight by being on TV, but I'm nothing without Hunter, without Daryl, without all the other guys that, that come along, the Jordan Burhouse and all those guys that are behind the scenes doing all the work. I'm nothing without those guys. They work extremely hard, or in the weight room, in the training room, equipment manager, doing video, and doing all those things.
A tough test ahead. The Tigers' first conference road trip of the year takes them to Orlando and then Philly. We'll preview that with Penny coming up next.
You're watching The Penny Hardaway Show, presented by Cook's Pest Control. Let's take a look at the AutoZone road ahead.
We've already seen how tough it can be on the road this year, and you've got 2 tough ones. You got to go to UCF, and then you got to go to Temple. Always a fun trip in Philly, but a hard one.
Yeah, first UCF. It's always tough to play there. We've had some success against them here. A little success. I think we've beaten them 1 time there, and the last 2 times we've lost. Coach Dawkins just does a good job of going out and recruiting guys to come in. The transfers are always good. The guys from the previous years, they have our game marked on their calendars. Always a tough game. And then Philly, we hadn't been to Philly in a couple years. But going there, the last time we went there, we lost. It was another tough place to play. Coach McKee has those guys believing in themselves, and we feel like we're every team's biggest game that we play against. So you got to be ready, and we got to shore up some games on the road. We have to start winning on the road.
For you personally, those trips to Orlando, I imagine those are pretty fun.
Yeah, the Orlando trip is fun, but it's also business because I know we're going to a tough environment. And it's more about that game than actually going back to visit the city for me.
That was tonight's AutoZone Road Ahead. AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination and official sponsor of Tiger Athletics. Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Oh, they love Penny in Orlando, at least until they tip it off. We're back in a moment to put a bow on this one.
You're watching The Penny Hardaway Show, presented by Cook's Pest Control.
Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you again late night next Sunday.
The Penny Hardaway Show is presented by Cook's Pest Control. You don't have to live with pests. Call Cook's Pest Control and get a free quote today. Conway Services, the official HVAC partner of Tiger Athletics. Tennessee Lottery, turning dollars into dreams. Tiger Bookstore, the official merchandiser of Tiger Athletics. AutoZone, when you've got car trouble, you want help from #1. So if you've got a battery problem, head to AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone, AutoZone, and is supported by your Memphis area Toyota dealers. This copyrighted telecast is an exclusive presentation of Learfield under the broadcasting rights granted by the University of Memphis. Reuse of this presentation is prohibited without the expressed written consent of the University of Memphis and Learfield.